You two don't even trust each other.
We family.
Bitch, fuck you and fuck your family.
So when it comes to achieving this power, powder, and respect, which the power universe is centered on, one tiny mistake can cost you your life. For example, believing you can take the night off, to thinking you can just pay someone off to keep their mouth shut, or even falling for the wrong person romantically, causing you to drop your guard around someone who only has eyes on power, but can cleverly manipulate your feelings for their own gain. And we've seen examples of all these situations across Power and Power Book 2 Ghost, from Ghost believing he was a legit businessman and believing he no longer had to look over his shoulder, to Lou dropping his guard in Season 1 and almost being burned alive. In Power we saw Ghost trying to pay Maria Suarez and Holly, something which Marvin seen with Sam the Crackhead reminded me of. Marvin made a huge mistake when he decided to trust the Crackhead's word instead of doing what needed to be done, and it's all because he wanted to be a changed man, similar to Ghost. But we also had that scenario played out. But the one we're gonna focus on in this video is how Raq played Cartier, and why Cartier had to go, due to some of his own negligence and complacency, but also some clever manipulating and maneuvers by Raq.
Cartier Duns Fareed. My man was a motherfucking shooting star. Big, bright, lit up the fucking sky. Had vision beyond the game.
Now, Cartier was introduced in Season 2, Episode 2, as a manager of Ziza. He said Ziza was his niece, but Ziza said the opposite, which is something I'm going to circle back around to later on in this video. But Cartier was someone who was on top of the food chain in terms of the street game and boardroom, but he was still hungry and looking to eat, trying to cherry pick a piece of the pie where he could make some extra cash, and where he made a deal, it was on his terms, something which Lou obliged with because he saw the talent in Ziza. But Cartier was someone who was well known both to Lou and Raq, and when Raq met Cartier, I think she knew she'd have the upper hand. And I do want to take it back to something Monet said to Diana in Season 1 of Power Book 2 Ghost.
Did you see the way he was looking at you? That look means you have power over him. And I want you to be able to see what these signs are. Because if he's useful to us, you gotta use any tool at your disposal.
So even though Power Book 2 Ghost and Raising Kanan are two different shows, the mentoring that Monet gave Diana in this scene is exactly why Raq knew she had some level of power over Cartier, with the look that Cartier gave Raq during their first meet. And Raq's purpose for Cartier was pure business, not romance, although that's not how Cartier saw it, because Raq made him see what she wanted him to see.
To control him, you gotta always be able to think ahead of him. Whatever you say to him should always lead him back to you.
So Raq used Cartier to get all the knowledge about how he cleaned his cash, to how he was running his operation, and so we started to learn how Cartier was well established in all areas, not just the street game. So regardless of Cartier's confidence, aura, and hustle, everyone has a weakness, and this is how Raq used Cartier to get what she wanted, in the exact same manner which Monet taught Diana. So with Raq having eyes on his operation in DC and Baltimore, and with his relationship with Traymond not exactly in the best of places, all she had to do was manipulate Cartier and tell him how Traymond was someone who was playing by his own rules, not Cartier's. And Cartier did all of Raq's work for her, and time again, Cartier was feeding Raq the information to his operation.
Traymond sits over my distro in Maryland and DC. I own that motherfucker.
But not only did Cartier tell Raq Traymond was someone who sat over his distros in Maryland and DC, she stepped in and took advantage when Cartier refused to help Abraham get off the weapons charge, and so Traymond was on board with working for Raq on one condition: she had to get rid of Cartier. So as much as Raq played a clever chess game with pulling Cartier's operation from beneath him, Cartier's downfall was majorly due to his own doing, and Raq was just there to make sure she took advantage. Now, Raq wasn't the only person who wanted something that Cartier had. Lou wanted control back from Bulletproof Records because he made a deal with the devil himself, but arguably he caused his own issues because where he could control Crown, he couldn't do that with Cartier.
See, my vote counts more than yours, correct? I guess it.
This was Lou controlling Crown, but as we found out in episodes 8 and 9, Cartier was someone who was anything but a silent partner, and so Lou and Raq's interests started to align, and they shared a common problem, someone who was standing in the way of what they wanted. And so unfortunately for Cartier, he had to go. But before we come to his death, I do think we need to touch on Crown's corpse. Now, Crown's corpse was found at the end of episode 8, along with his Bulletproof Records business card, and Raq asked Lou if he had any idea of who killed Crown, but he blamed any of those guys he had a debt with. But I'm sure Raq had an inkling it was Lou. But regardless, I thought they could possibly kill two birds with one stone and get rid of Cartier and get rid of the problem of Crown's body at the same time by framing Cartier, but they didn't. And now Crown's body may still come back to haunt Lou, and that's something the Thomas family are making a bit of a habit of. We've got Crown's corpse who could come back and bite Crown, Scrappy's death haunting Raq, and Marvin's decision not to kill Sam the crackhead could definitely prove costly in more ways than one. We also need to take into consideration this war with the Italians, because Raq did make reference to how he answers to bigger bosses in New York, and so if she wipes out the Italians in Jersey in episode 10, they may have already foreshadowed what's next for Raq in season 3.
See, the thing about the crown, man, is once you're wearing it, you ain't as hungry no more. You start feeling comfortable, safe, satisfied.
Now, it was always going to be over for Cartier one way or another. The older Kanan's narration goes back to how I mentioned Cartier was dropping his guard around Raq. He got too comfortable and complacent, which also goes back around to the beginning of this video with how a tiny mistake can cost you your life. But I did like the fact he went down with some fighting talk, telling both Lou and Raq how they don't even trust each other, which isn't exactly wrong, because it is the reason why Lou approached Cartier for help and not Raq, because he wanted to keep his sister away from Bulletproof Records, but in avoiding making a deal with one devil, he made it with another. And we all know the issues that Raq has been having with Lou ever since he killed D-Wiz, but never questioned Lou's loyalty. He's always been down for his family, and he'll always back his siblings. Although it does have to be said, Lou is about to make a discovery about Raq in episode 10, and it can only be one of two things. Either Howard is Kanan's father, or Raq was a CI when she was 16, or maybe both, and this really will complicate things. Now, another question following Cartier's death is how does Ziza react? Even though Cartier referenced her as her niece, I'm not 100% sure, because she did say she wasn't, but maybe they were that close, they considered each other as family, and with Ziza knowing the secret of Lou killing Crown, she holds a secret that could potentially harm Lou and the Thomases, and we all know in this game, no loose ends. So now we're about to really find out whether Ziza is a ride or die for Lou. But that's a breakdown of the death of Cartier Duns Fareed, who didn't exactly help himself by becoming too complacent, but how Raq played him throughout season 2, and eventually not just taking his operation, but making sure this smoke was his last. So drop all your thoughts down below on that ending scene of Cartier's death, and of course if you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 3 and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.